right, well, good morning, everybody. We're excited to have you here today. We've got a great event. For those that don't know me, I am Heather Gould. I am the current 2020 State Governor for Women's Council of Realtors, and I was also the 2018 President of the local Raleigh Regional. So on behalf of the Women's Council of Realtors, and I'm going to introduce our president in just a minute. And on behalf of Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors, we are excited today to bring you this event. September is Realtor Safety Month. So we thought it was very important to bring back probably our most requested, it was definitely our most attended speaker from 2 years ago. So we're very excited. We're going to get started shortly. But before we do that, we just have a couple of things that we want to share. But I do want to welcome and introduce our 2020 Women's Council President, Tiffany Williamson, and she wants to speak a little bit about Women's Council, an initiative we have going on. So welcome, Tiffany.
Hey, thank you, Heather. And again, thank you, Carl, for being with us today. I actually am one of the very few that missed the last conference. So I am so excited. I was out of town and I heard rave reviews, and out of everything we've done, I was most jealous that I missed your event. So I'm very excited about today. And guys, we've got something coming up with Women's Council. It's my love language, basically. It's like a virtual retreat, if you will. It's called Wealth, Health, and Self, November 2nd through the 6th. And the best thing about this conference is it is completely free to new members. So if you're thinking about joining the Women's Council, or you want to learn more, please let me know. We would love to have you guys, especially for this event. So if you're thinking about joining, let us know. But this conference is centered around how to build wealth, how to, with the quarantine 19, 25, I've heard you've gained quarantine 30, that's probably the category I'm in, but how to be healthy, put yourself first, and self-care, which is something that has been so hard, I know this year, I've heard from so many people. So again, that conference is November 2nd through the 6th. And for our current members, if you register for this conference between August 1st and October 31st, the conference is, what is it, $99, Heather?
No, that ended. It's $149.
$149. Okay, yeah, so $149, but that price does go up after October 31st. To learn more about this virtual conference, go to WCR.org, but I would highly recommend it. I'm actually going to register today. I'm super excited about it. And if you've been thinking about joining the Women's Council and want to know a little bit about us, make sure that you follow us on social media at facebook.com/WCR Raleigh. The 4 pillars of Women's Council membership, Heather posted today, and it really does speak exactly to what our mission is, and it's education, networking, referrals, and leadership. And we are also very passionate about community outreach and supporting the foundation of the Realtors Association, as well as some of the other foundations across the triangle. And our mission, again, is to develop leaders. And it's a breath of fresh air when you can have people around you that you can reach out to at any time and bounce something off of them. I personally have learned and grown so much from being a part of the Women's Council. I'm surrounded by so many amazing women and men who have helped me grow, not only personally, but professionally. So if you want to learn more about joining Women's Council, please reach out to any of us, Jimmy Hedges, Heather Gould, Amber Johnson, myself, and also you can go to WCR.org. And without further ado, I don't want to hold things up any longer. I know you are anxiously anticipating Carl, so I'll turn it back over to Heather.
All right, just 2 other, since we have a captive audience, 2 other important things we want to share about our local association. I'm going to invite Derek Thornton to join us. Derek, you just have to unmute yourself. And Derek is one, I've known Derek for many years. He's an agent in my office, but he was a member of the Class of 18 Triangle Realtors Leadership Academy, and he will be the dean next year of the Academy. So I've invited him to come on and just join and share a little bit about the Academy. Derek, are you on?
I am. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you for giving me some time to just talk a little bit about it today. As she said, it's the program that I've been through. The association put the Leadership Academy into place well over a decade ago, and it's a year-long program with modules and speakers from all over the nation. It's a really opportunity to kind of help you not only grow your leadership skills in your business, but also in your personal and family life too. Many of the people that you know, like Heather and Tiffany and even Louis Scruggs, who are in leadership roles in different committees and areas of the association, they all have been through this academy. And it's a great way to network, get to know, see the kind of behind the scenes, and have more involvement in the everyday things that impact our industry. And so if you're interested in that, applications are open now for next year. I think they're going until November 6th is when you have the deadline for submitting an application. But you go on RER's website. I'm going to put a link in the chat so you guys can see that, just to get a little bit more information. You're welcome to talk to me as well if you ever want to learn more.
So thank you, Derek. Yes, definitely. I will say this, as Derek said, many of us in Women's Council have gone through it. Pretty much the entire board has. But what's more important is our executive board at RRAR, they're all members of Women's Council as well. So great opportunities. The Leadership Academy has really allowed us to network and come together and be definitely stronger for all of the Women's Council and the association. Our next speaker, real quick before we kick off our main event, is the lovely Heather Thompson. And Heather is the director of the Realtor Foundation of Wake County. And are you on, Heather?
I'm right here, girl.
All right. So Heather wanted to speak about the foundation. So I'm going to kick it over to you, Heather.
Okay. Thank you for the opportunity. Okay, guys. In the movie, Lilo and Stitch, you might have to take it back a little bit. In that movie, there's a scene in there, and there's a saying, Ohana. And Ohana means family, and family means nobody gets left behind or forgotten. And I cannot think of a better way to describe the mission-based work that we're doing at the Realtor Foundation. And all of you all pretty much have the same last name when it comes to your business. It's the registered trademark R. And you can be assured that your brand is elevated in the community by the work that we're doing. 2 people this morning, Trishia and Chloe, they woke up. They had moved from a motel to an empty apartment. We go in, and in less than 4 hours, that apartment is furnished top to bottom. So they get to wake up this morning with all the comforts of home like we do. Wanda, 2 days ago, woke up and her air conditioner had broken. She didn't have the money to get it fixed. So in less than 24 hours, a Realtor delivers a window AC unit. So talk about rapid response. We are in the fold in doing that. 2 things you can do today, and it only takes 2 clicks today, like our Facebook page and like another Realtor Roulette page. Your sphere of influence is huge these days. We're not able to get out and see you face to face. So the influence you can make in just those 2 clicks is great. So thank you for the time this morning, and I will put those on the chat.
Yes, thank you, Heather. So I'll speak briefly to Realtor Roulette. That was started by another fellow Realtor Foundation director. It's a great way for items are donated, and we raffle them off, and we are able to donate the proceeds. So Realtor Roulette, many of you I have probably invited, but that's out on Facebook. But let's get to the main event. I'm super excited. So 2 years ago, I met our speaker, Carl Carter Jr., when he came to Raleigh to talk about realtor safety, to share his unfortunate story about his mother. Many of you participated. It's gut-wrenching, and it's beautiful in the way that Carl talks about his mom, talks about the Beverly Carter Foundation. But a little bit about Carl. He's a father of 3. Look, I researched this, Carl. Father of 3. He's married to the lovely Kim. He is from Arkansas, and he has worked for Blue Cross Blue Shield for many years. But after his mom's story and her unfortunate murder, Carl started the Beverly Carter Foundation to really focus on realtor safety and bring that to the forefront. And we are so pleased to have him today. He's going to share things that we need to think about in our day-to-day business. And he's going to share about his mom's story. And we're super excited. So Carl, welcome back to Raleigh. We're so sorry you couldn't be here in person, but hey, we've got a good group of people here. So welcome, and I'm going to kick it over to you.
Well, thank you. It is good to be back. Those of you that I was not able to meet the last time I was there, I think even the last time I was there at your association, I always do this thing that when I have this presentation pulled up, and of course Mom's beautiful pictures there on the front slide, and I always say, Mom, look at this beautiful facility, or Mom, here, we're in Raleigh, Mom, we're in, wherever we are. And so she's probably not as excited to see that I'm sitting in my daughter's bedroom right now. But I definitely wish I was with you all. This safety month is 6 years since I lost my sweet mama. And, she would get a kick out of it, I'm sure, but my mom and I were we were close in age. My mom had me when she was 16. So now I turned 40 next Friday, or next week. And so now my mom was 50 when she was taken. And so now when people say, well, I heard, Beverly Carter's brother speak about her story. And now that I'm getting up there in age, people are mistaking us for siblings. So I'm sure she would get a kick out of that. Before I get started, I wanted to also just let you all know that you may or may not know that there was a Dateline episode about my mom. And so I was contacted over the weekend by NBC, and they were asking for additional information because they are updating Mom's story to highlight kind of the state of realtor safety, and that they are adding a section about, at the end of the story, about the Beverly Carter Foundation. And of course, you all have all been such an integral part of the growth of our organization. So I wanted to give you the heads up the night of September the 14th. But how this will flow this morning is I'd love to tell you my mom's story. Some of you may have heard it before. I think that even those like myself, as gut-wrenching as it is for me to share it, it's a good story to reconnect with, as it is Safety Month, and we can be reminded of a lot of things from my mama. And then lastly, I'm going to share some tips, some good things that I've learned since the last time that I was with you. Reminder about the sweet lady that she was. There on the left, you can see there's my dad. My mom was 50 when she was taken from us. She and my dad were high school sweethearts, and so they had been together since their teenage years. I would ask, if you are a person of faith, that you continue to remember my dad in prayer. He is still very broken all these years later. It's very, very sad. My mom, of course, three boys. I was the oldest of the three. And for those of you that might not have been around in the 80s, that's what every single photograph from the 80s looks like. Terrible. And then, of course, my mom was a beloved grandma. And as Heather said, I do have 3 kiddos. And so navigating life without their grandma and what, the spotlight that they are in, being the grandchildren of a person that was murdered, and the story continues to be so big, is a tough thing to navigate. Another tough thing to navigate is having to virtual learning. So right as I conduct this session this morning, my 6-year-old is in another room doing violin lessons, and I hope that will not be discernible for any of you on our webinar this morning. If so, please forgive me and pray for me. All right. So let's start with the uncomfortable truth. My mom was targeted for the same reasons that any of us could have been targeted. My mom was targeted, and this is from the bad guy himself, when asked repeatedly, why did you pick Beverly? Why did you do this? it always came back down to 2 points. It was that she was a rich broker, and I'm using that in air quotes, his words, and that she worked alone. And that really was the true driving force based upon my mom's public persona, based upon what they were able to find out. And evidence suggested, or not suggested, evidence was found in the home of these bad people when detectives got their laptop from their home and they looked, they're looking at the search history of this bad people's laptop, and they found that they had done Google searches. They had dug around in my mom's Facebook profile, which was 100% public, and they had also gone to county records online to do a search on my mom's name to determine where she lived and the property value of the home that she lived in. And what they were trying to do with all that is however she got on their radar, whether they were just, doing vast searches for successful real estate agents in the area, or they saw her marketing. Once they got her in, kind of their sights, they did these searches, and unfortunately, because of the profession that we're in, there is such a public perception that we are all so wildly rich. And whether that is true or not, it's certainly not true for me. We do have to combat the fact that so many people think that we are just so rich. And that's really a starting point with my mom's story, is that it's an uncomfortable truth, but we have to remember that people that might see us as opportunities to get rich would have that perception. This is the property where my mom was taken from us, and I intentionally have the property, the street address and the property description that was listed online. I have it like that intentionally because it's just another appointment, right? It's just another showing. And how often are we showing property, especially this day, and age? I mean, we are just showing property like crazy in our market. And, but I want to back up, and I want you, if you will, with me this morning to just put yourself in my mom's shoes and think about how you would respond if today you began getting phone calls, text, and emails from a new lead. And so you're talking to a husband and wife. Their story is that they are relocating due to work. They are living in a temporary housing situation. They want to get in something more, permanent as soon as possible. They give you the specs of the type of home that they're looking for. And again, you're talking to them on the telephone, you're texting them, and you're emailing them. The phone number that you interact with, it matches, the area code matches the state that they say they're moving in from. And their email address matches the names that they've given you. Another thing about this couple is that they are, as they relocate and they want to get into a property as soon as possible, they're also cash buyers. And so all of this is sounding good. But then mom starts having some issues related to inventory and finding properties that this couple are interested in. So my mom, sets them up on the MLS to get, the auto emails every time something hits the market. Mom is talking up this couple within her own real estate brokerage to other agents, like we all do when, hey, I've got a couple trying to help get into a home. Here's what they're looking for. If you know of something that's going to hit the market, let me know. And then similarly, just as all of our spouses, being married to someone in real estate, they hear the ins and outs of all of our deals. And of course, my dad had heard all about this couple. But, back to the point of, mom was struggling to find a home that they were interested in. But a point that I want to make about interacting with this couple, and as great as this scenario all, sounds at that surface level right now, The only struggle being trying to find a property they were interested in. To peel back the layers of it, the phone number that was being used to contact my mom was a spoof number. So they had used their phone and they had downloaded an app called Text Me, and that app provided them a spoof number. And I'll say back in 2014, when mom was taken from us, that the whole concept of a spoof number really wasn't as mainstream as it is today. You know, nowadays, the phone number comes across our phone and it means absolutely nothing to us, right? It could be a local number, but the person on the other end of the phone, there's nothing local about where they are. And so, one, we can be reminded of that in my mom's story, that a phone number, an area code does not do anything to verify who a person is or where they're from. Moreover, like this couple had set up an email account with the fictitious names. And so, reminder that we can't count on an email account with the names as any sort of validation for who a person is, because any of us with about a minute of time on our hands can create an account with any name we want to. And so my mom, while this scenario sounds good and it sounds exciting, she had no idea that these people had sought her out. They had researched her. They had, conducted these internet searches, which is eerie, right? Like, we're taught in safety classes to, when we start working with someone new, to search them out as best we can online. But it's eerie to know that someone could do the same for us. My mom also had no idea that these people, they literally, and this is in their words, they perceived her to be so rich that they would never have to work again with the ransom money they got from my mom. And, I always, I kind of joke about this because I'm sure my parents would not love the fact that I'm telling you or anyone, their personal finances, but they had my mom all wrong. Their perception of her wealth was nothing but just that. My mom was not a wealthy lady. She was just a beautiful lady that had a very professional marketing campaign. She lived in a nice middle-class home on the lake. But to this couple, she seemingly had it all. And so eventually, this couple, they reached out to my mom about seeing this property that you see on the screen now. And I'll say, and I'll concede that you can see why someone might be interested in this property. Like, from the outside, this particular photo, it looks nice, right? But this particular property had many, many issues. So the good thing about this property is, as you can see here from the photo, and it sits on the lake, half-acre lot, 3-car garage, and it's a lot larger home than it even looks here. I think this home is over 3,000 square feet. But my mom knew about this house. My mom knew from seeing it previously that this house was in a complete state of disarray. She knew that there had been issues of squatters, that there had been issues where people had gotten inside and they had ripped out the faucets and light fixtures and even down to some of the copper wiring. I mean, the inside of this house is just a mess. It's been sitting foreclosed, no utilities for literal years. And my mom was really, the whole area about this house was commonplace for my mom. My parents lived on that same lake. My mom had to pass this road that this house was on every day to get home. Any given weekend, we would be floating out behind this house. I've seen this house, a lot growing up on the lake. Just 3 or 4 doors down from this house is where the pastor of my mom's church lived. Truly a nice, quiet area. One thing that worked against my mom, and really this is makes the case for not only just for professionalism and selling, but it makes the case of the importance of good real estate photography, because this was the leading photo on Zillow at the time my mom was kidnapped, followed by 3 or 4 very dimly lit, awful photos that had been taken by, I don't even know what. I mean, they were just a terrible, terrible quality of photos. So you can imagine the struggle then, if you're a real estate agent, someone reaches out to see this property and you're like, oh, trust me, this house is probably not for you. But, you know, if this is the only photo online, they're still going to be interested. So it was the husband of this husband and wife that took mom from me that called mom asking to see this particular property. And to hear him tell the story, for whatever reason, my mom expressed hesitancy in showing him the property. Now, we can speculate that it was because she knew it was going to be a waste of time because she knew the state of this house. Or we can also, I don't think it would be too much of a stretch to maybe think maybe her instincts were going off, that something was a little off with this guy. We can only speculate, right? But what we do know, and we know this from him, that she didn't want to show the property to him, and she made up a company policy right there in that conversation. She told him that she was sorry, but company policy prohibited her from showing property alone in a rural area. So that's a great safety tip, right? Especially, you know, I think it's real easy for us to, if you're like me, you know, it's so easy to say, oh, well, I'm big and I'm tough, and if anybody ever comes at me, I'm going to say this or I'm going to do this. But then you find yourself in a confrontation and suddenly you're like, you know, stuttering. And I love that what we can learn from my mom in that her words perhaps failed her or she was caught off guard, but she had the fortitude to make up that company policy, which shifted kind of the blame and made it a non-confrontational, little sorry, my boss won't like me type thing. So it's a good strategy. But then this is why we have to keep talking about safety, because then you have to think about, well, what do you do then when the husband hands the phone to the wife and the wife says, hey, I will be coming straight from work. I'll meet you guys there. Would your company be okay if the 3 of us meet? And so the problem with this, and I think this is why my mom's story resonates with so many people, is that many of us find ourselves doing this type of thing all the time. We are meeting a couple the first time at a property, and we don't think that it's an unsafe situation because it's a husband and a wife, and many of us, not that it's right, but we don't screen consistently. And we certainly don't think that because a woman's involved that it could have the potential of being a dangerous situation. And so my sweet mom she agreed to show this property to that couple for, safety reasons, for her and for the client. She told them that they needed to set the appointment for no later than 6 o'clock because there were no utilities. This was late September. The days start getting shorter. And so she wanted to make sure that they had plenty of daylight to tour this property. And so Thursday, September 25th comes. It's the day to see this property. The appointment is set. My mom gets to this property early and makes a number of, real estate related phone calls from the driveway while she's awaiting the clients. But I'll tell you, we have to think back to the great days of real estate prior to COVID and the negative impact that we've had on our workflows. But, that particular day, she had been at the office. She had gone to an affiliate luncheon. She had won $50 in the affiliate luncheon, gone back to the office. And then before going to show this property, she had touched base with my dad to say, hey, you know that house around the lake? I'm going to show it to that couple that's moving in from out of state. Then I'll take this $50 that I won at this affiliate luncheon, and I will buy us dinner and bring it home. I'll see you later. I mean, y'all, it was just a Thursday. And, you know, another good safety tips and all of that, right? Mom was talking up the people that she'd been working with to other agents in the office. She had told my dad where she was going to be showing property. But at 6 o'clock that evening, as my mom's sitting here in the driveway of this in her vehicle of this property, a black car pulls up. A young Caucasian male with dark hair gets out of the vehicle and approaches my mom. And we know that we don't know which came first. So I'll tell you what his side, and then I'll tell you the wife's side. So we know that around the very same time of this man approaching my mom, he began apologizing and saying, you know, I'm so sorry, but my wife has gotten caught up at work. She will not be able to join us for this showing. We have this request of you. Because there were such few photos online and they were such terrible quality, would you mind if we go ahead and show the property? And as we go through the property, will you take photographs on your cell phone and text them to my wife and answer any questions she has? And it will be like she's here with us on the showing. And so we don't know which came first. So either the husband's ask or the wife asking. And so we know that the wife began to text my mom with the exact same request. Girl, I'm so sorry. I've gotten caught up at work. She's being very, you know, very familiar, very friendly. Would you mind doing us this favor? And so, you know, it's this part of the story that I always wish I could change, right? This is, of all the decisions and all of the business processes that, you know, there have been failures along the way. We can learn about the importance of and be reminded of the initial consults and the exchange of ID, and so it goes. But this is kind of that last opportunity. And it's at this point of the story that my stomach burns for my mom. And I imagine that her instinct was probably off the charts. But she had a really tough decision to make. Do you go ahead and show the property? It's just one showing. You're already there. What they're asking you to do, I mean, it doesn't seem unreasonable. And so my precious mom agreed to show this property. And I tell you, you know, it's very, very eerie and awful. But at the conclusion of the trial, we got back my mom's cell phone, which had been admitted, you know, as evidence. It had been found in the bad guy's home. And as I'm scrolling through my mom's phone, just looking for old memories and, you know, looking at photos, and I go to her camera roll and I find that about the last 10 photos on my mom's camera roll were of the interior of this home. And you may have been wondering why I have it on this slide, that bottom right picture there, this awkward photo of this bedroom. And that photo was actually taken by my mom. That photo truly represents the last moment of my mom's freedom. It was in this moment, as my mom turned from taking this photograph, that my mom was met with a taser in her side. And the man that she thought was a client proclaiming to her that she was about to have a very bad day. And he tased my sweet mom. And if you're able to actually see me on your screen, I'm holding up a ridiculous roll of lime green duct tape. And he took this tape and he wrapped it around my mom's ankles, and he wrapped her wrists together behind her back, and he wrapped it entirely around her head over her eyes and entirely around her head over her mouth. He then went outside and got in his car and turned it around and backed it up to the house and opened the trunk. And maybe the biggest message of the day for you, I don't know, can be this point that I'm about to make. With COVID, we are all home more than we've been in a long, long time. And we should have a baseline for what the safety of our neighborhoods looks like. And everything that I've just told you about a black car arriving, a young Caucasian male getting out of the car, greeting my mom, they go into the home. Moments later, that man comes back out, getting in his car, turns it around, opens the trunk. Every bit of those details were witnessed by the next door neighbor. But they didn't come to light until much later that night, when detectives were door knocking, asking the neighbors if they had seen anything that looked suspicious. And so maybe the safety message, that you can take to your whole family over dinner tonight would just be the reminder that as we are home, as we can observe more in our neighborhoods, and we can really get a pulse of what our neighborhoods look like on a day-to-day basis, that if you see something suspicious, that you feel empowered to at least report it. It certainly doesn't hurt to report it. That bad man, he put my sweet mom in the trunk of his car, and I will tell you, it still doesn't seem real. I know we all have seen movies where actors are put into the trunk of a car, and if you're like me, you never really thought much about it. But it's a very different thing when your loved one, especially our moms, our first love, to know that she was put in the trunk of a car. And as if, to make it even worse, before closing the lid on my mom, putting her in the darkness of that trunk, that bad man pulled out his cell phone and he took a picture of my mom in the trunk of that car. And he texted it to his wife. And we can only assume that he did that because he wanted to show his wife that their master plan of kidnapping this rich realtor and holding her, for ransom and getting all of this money so they would never have to work again. We can only assume that that photo was to show her that this plan was in play. He then took my mom to another spot and he made my mom do a video. And so the whole plan was to have my mom record a series of ransom videos that would be delivered through that spoof telephone number to my dad's cell phone. And my mom, in her own words, would be the one to tell my dad what to do and how to get the money to these people. And so, although no videos were ever delivered to my dad, one important point to know about their plan was that their plan was to kidnap my mom and have my dad push all of this perceived wealth to accounts that were accessible via cards that were in my mom's purse. But from the second he drove off with my mom in the trunk of that car, their plan was already ruined. You see, and many of you ladies probably are already, what I'm about to say. In his haste to kidnap my mom, he forgot her purse. And the reason why the purse wasn't top of mind for him is because my mom was not showing property with a purse on her shoulder. Like so many of you ladies, whether you do it for safety and security reasons or just practicality because it's in the way, my mom had left her purse locked in her car that day. And so in his haste to kidnap her, he left behind the one thing that he needed to be able to get the money. And so alternatively, then, mom has been taken and we don't know that. And so I get a call from my dad, and my dad is concerned because he's not hearing from my mom. And I encouraged my dad to go over to this property where she had told him that she would be showing. And he finds my mom's vehicle with a client folder that she had created for this couple with all of these lies documented. And my mom's purse. But it was like my mom had just disappeared. And so our family finds ourselves out, on this essentially kind of abandoned, foreclosed, awful home with a yard that's overgrown. It's pitch black. Really the only lights in the neighborhood that night were just the flashing of almost a dozen cop cars. And we are trying to, at that time, my mom was the only one in our family in real estate, but we're trying to piece together every bit of real estate that we knew from hearing her stories to try to come up with scenarios that made her okay. And so I remember that night with all the cops everywhere, and they're door knocking and asking questions, and they had set up a roadblock. And I remember seeing a car off in the distance and the headlights of the car. And that person was stopped and questioned about their knowledge of the disappearance of a local real estate agent. And that person denied knowing anything and left the scene. And it was just moments later that my dad began to get text from my mom. And so you'll remember it was Thursday. If you look at this timestamp, it was Thursday at 6 p.m. that my mom had that appointment. So we are 6 hours and 21 minutes later. My dad begins to get text from my mom. If you can imagine how heightened our worry had become as we, stood out at this property in the middle of the night. After 10 o'clock, you really couldn't come up with a good reason why my mom hadn't contacted dad. No real estate related reason. And then the later it got, the more worried we became. But imagine when dad starts yelling that mom's contacting him, and the excitement and the relief, and if I'm honest, a little bit of I was a little embarrassed because there were all of these cops that were involved. And I was thinking to myself, my gosh, Mom, you have got some explaining to do. And as these texts are coming in, they're coming in about a minute apart. And so, we hear, after midnight that yes, and phone's been dead. And then that third text that you see there on the screen came in. And that text actually confirmed for us the worst. That text confirmed that someone had my mom's phone and they were pretending to be her. I know that you guys didn't know my mom, but she was, her favorite food was chocolate cake and her favorite drink was chocolate milk. She was not much of a drinker, and certainly not one that would have been out, at midnight drinking. So this confirmed that my mom was in trouble. What we didn't know is just that moments prior to that car that had been stopped right next to us and questioned, that was actually the bad guy himself that had come back out to the home to get the purse. And he, to his surprise, when mom didn't come home from work, from showing that day, my dad knew exactly where to go look because she had told him. And so, like so many of these bad guys, you know, they think they have the best, the brightest plan, going to be so rich, never have to work again. And then they see, oh, I made a mistake. And oh, there are blue lights. And now they make these, they go from a crime that's here to way up here because they don't want to go back to prison. This guy, in fact, you know, was a 7-time felon. He didn't want to go back to prison. This is the timeline from when my mom was missing. Again, you know, at the end of this month will be 6 years. Some of the darkest days of my life are represented here. But also, I am reminded of the amazing support that we got from the real estate community. While it does represent the darkest days of my life, it also is a love story from the real estate community to our family. We personally felt the benefits. You know, before we started my session today, you know, we got to talk, hear about the good work that your foundation's doing for families there in the area, and we were the benefactors in 2014 of such love and support. And so for that, I'm eternally grateful, and I hope you all know that. It was real estate agents that filled these fields looking for any sign of my mom. It was real estate agents that kept the heat on local law enforcement and later on the judicial process demanding justice. And it probably won't surprise you to know that it leaked to Facebook first that my mom's body had been found the early morning hours of September 30th. And it was real estate agents that showed up on my doorstep at 4 a.m. to deliver the news to me that my mom's body had been found. This was, again, mom's 50th birthday party. And my dad and my brother, the words that my mom spoke in that video that she was made to record, you know, that was never delivered to my dad, but the words she said to my dad were, "Hey, Carl, it's me. I just want to let you know that I'm okay and I haven't been hurt. Just do what he says and don't call the cops. If you call the cops, it could get bad. And then lastly, and I think most importantly, I just want you to know I love you very much." And I can't imagine the fear and confusion that my mom had faced. I mean, she had just been tased and taped and put in the trunk of a car and then pulled out and made to do a video. And she was still concerned with my dad knowing how loved he was. And I continue to be inspired by my mom's graciousness and her heart. Evidence was also found in the trunk of that car that she had gotten her hands free. So my sweet mama was fighting for her freedom. And so just as my mom was fighting, I fight continually through our foundation for your safety. And then lastly, we know that while the husband came back that night to try to get the purse, he had left his wife with a firearm to guard the door because they had locked my mom up in their master bathroom. We know from the wife, as she sat outside that door, guarding it to keep my mom from escaping, that she had to, although she never interacted with my mom, she says that she still remained haunted by the sounds of my mom's prayers. And so I appreciate you guys letting me share that, because I continue to be inspired by my mom's love and her fight and her faith that sustained her right until the very end. And you see, whenever the bad guy was unable to get the purse and he saw blue lights, they began to completely freak out and melt down, and they wanted to pretend that it all never happened. They wanted to make it go away. And so they took everything of value on my mom. They took that $50 that she had won at that affiliate luncheon that was in her pocket. They took her wedding ring. They took her other jewelry. Disgustingly, the wife even liked the shirt that my mom was wearing. And so that shirt was found hanging in the wife's closet. But they brought my mom to this spot, which is the backside of private property. This is the backside of a concrete plant where they store the trucks and wash them out after concrete jobs. And it was at this spot that you see here on the screen. This is where my mom took her last breath. This is where those cowards took that same tape that my mom had been bound with and wrapped it just continually around her head and strips over her face until my sweet mom could no longer breathe. It was in this spot that they had attempted to dig a grave and bury my mom in a very shallow grave. It was at this spot, of course, that due to amazing law enforcement efforts, incredible detective skills of 26 detectives and investigators, that my mom's body was found. We did go to trial, and both of these awful people are in prison. The wife took a plea deal, so she is currently, she has to serve probably about 17, 18 years from now. Most recently, she filed for clemency, for a clemency hearing, and I just put a little thing on Facebook, hey, if you feel so inclined, will you write a letter? I think maybe you wrote a letter, Heather, that I ended up mailing in, back to the love that I have for our industry, like a box, just this huge box full of letters from our community saying, Beverly's life matters, my life matters. These people cannot be freed. And so her clemency request was denied. And of course, the husband is in prison for life. He has 2 life sentences without parole, the possibility of parole for kidnapping and capital murder. We continue to be, this guy keeps kind of bubbling back up. We've been to prison, we've been to court a number of times with him through the years because he sued the prison guards for being too rough. He sued the interrogators for being too rough. He's appealed the decision in my mom's case to the Arkansas Supreme Court and lost. And most recently, who knew you could do this from within prison, he is able to identify and write death threats to African-American federal judges across the United States. And he's doing that in hopes of catching a federal charge to be moved to a different, fancier prison. So tax dollars hard at work. But I'm thankful that he can at least cause no physical harm. I know if you're like me, like my mom's story, it wears you out, doesn't it? And I know I've shared with you a lot of tips along the way, but let's quickly just reconnect on some of these things that we can learn from mom. And that's that when we are screening, that we screen everyone fairly and consistently, and we do not make assumptions that, a bad guy fits a definable profile. Everyone is screened the same. I hope that you insist upon an in-person pre-showing buyer consultation in a public place. And, I've seen some realtors get very creative and tech savvy with doing their initial consults over Zoom so that they could limit interaction. I think that's pretty smart. Obtain an ID, share it, use local, I always encourage agents. I'm like, it is for every state that I can't say I've gone all 50, but for every state that I've researched, there are state resources available to you. And think of yourself like a bartender. So if you're a bartender and you're in training and you want to know what a fake ID looks like, there for your state are great resources on exactly the components of an ID. So if you have the concern ever that you may be, someone may be passing off an ID that isn't legit. So know that those resources exist. Use the internet. share your itinerary. I trust and hope that you have either, if it's not a professional colleague, your spouse, partner, someone that you can share your itinerary. I know it's a big leap of trust, but if I hope that you can have, that you're in a trusting relationship, that you can turn on your GPS sharing, and so that your person that you're in a relationship with, or a trusted colleague at work, that you can just say, hey, I just want to share my location with you at all times through my phone, just so you know where I am. I hope that you have that relationship, and if not, I hope that it's something that you'll work to foster, because it certainly does take trust and communication. I hope that you'll think of my mom and how she was taken by surprise from that bad guy, and I hope that you'll work to do a better job of letting your clients lead and keeping your back to the door. And of course, I hope you will consider that situation I told you with the next door neighbor and report suspicious activities to the authorities. For the next, I've got just some tips I want to share quickly. I have been talking your ear off, so I'm going to go through these super fast. But I want you to know that these slides are 100% yours. So we will work to get them to you in any kind of way. I'll share them with the team, and then whatever, just know they're yours, I promise. So we'll get them to you. Don't feel like you need to write things down or anything. So one thing that I found as a universal truth is that agents want to see more done for consumer awareness, that, hey, consumers, don't get so offended whenever I ask you for an ID, or that I insist upon a consultation first. And so we have it at the foundation and also at the National Association of Realtors. I've been on the safety committee this year. And so some of our initiatives have been to develop things that you can be a part of the solution. Can you still hear me?
Yes. You went
Okay.
out for a minute, but we can still hear you.
Okay, good deal. Okay, so so just know, I want you to know that for the National Association of Realtors has out on their safety section of their website, NAR/Realtor/safety. These are tips that you can download, that you can share through either your Facebook business pages, or, if you just like to maintain just a personal page, you can, this is a small way that we could put out safety related messages and be a part of the solution ourselves. I love that we can be empowered like more than ever. Out on that same site, there is a video. This is a great video that you can share with consumers. Some decide to play this video as part of their new listing presentations, which is great. Oops, I did not mean to do that.
The screen's just white now.
Well, how about that? I'm almost finished, y'all. What I did is it took me to the website, and I did not want it to do that.
Still seeing white on our end.
I love technology so much.
I know.
All right, well, I'll tell you what, I have talked your ear off. So what I will do then, let's just stop the share and I will wrap up. So one thing that I wanted to tell you about with what we're doing with the Beverly Carter Foundation that I think can be helpful to you is that if ever you find that you want to reconnect with safety tips, or you want to help heighten safety awareness within your brokerage, I would encourage you to go to our website, and it's beverlycarterfoundation.org. And if you click on training and then downloadable resources, that's my favorite part of the website. And so that gives you just, it's a host of topics, and they're all just one sheet each. And it's just and kind of bullets down through different real estate related topics that can help you navigate having the safety conversation. And it's easy for you to share with others too, with those resources. With that though, I hate that we weren't able to be together in person. The last slide that I always show is a picture, and those of you that when we were together last time, is a picture of a for sale sign of my mom's, and surrounding the for sale sign was my mom or my kids, because we'd run the neighborhood, and we stopped, by what we call our mama. We stopped by mama's listings, and the kids posed for a picture, and we sent that to her, posted on our Facebook wall. And that was just 1 week prior to when my mom was taken from us. And the thought that I want to leave you with today is that I hope that my mom's story will help you reflect upon your own business practices to make smarter, safer choices. And then also just I hope that you'll think of, like, my family, those of us that are left, that would be so impacted if something were to happen to you. I hope that you feel loved and you feel valued, and that my small words have made you more aware of the people on the periphery of your life that so desperately need you to go home safely each and every day. Cannot thank you guys enough for this opportunity. And again, we'll get these slides to you so you have them. So if you guys have any questions of me, Heather, if you'll help me with that, I'm happy to take any questions at all.
Right now, we've had several people just say thank you for sharing your beautiful mom and her story. And one of our guests today said, every time I show a house, I'll send a prayer for you and your entire family. And I think that just echoes, it's a touching story. And, you tear up, I tear up, but safety is important to all of our realtors. And we cannot thank you enough for just sharing your beautiful mom.
Thank you, my friend.
Who has a question for Carl while he's here? I'll just start it off, because I think what your mom, when I was taking notes about the couple, the area code matched, the email matched, and they're a cash buyer. I think common sense would tell us how to verify that cash buyer, but what would you recommend? If that same scenario existed today with technology that has changed significantly, what advice would you give to a newer agent who does, shares all of this? It all seems to line up, and they say they're a cash buyer. How could an agent, move forward and kind of pre-screen additionally?
Okay, so I'll give the correct answer, right, is that we would ask for proof of funds. But the problem with that, and what I like about Real Talk, is that many of us, especially those of us newer in the industry, and I'll tell you, this is even for some of the experienced ones, it is common among agents that it is an uncomfortable ask for someone to supply proof of funds. Now, if that's not uncomfortable for you and you just go for it, then hey, you're a hero, you're a rock star. I will say, I think that it's something that we have to practice. Just I'm actually a huge fan of scripting. And so I think when I think about the ways that I need to ask things that I need to perfect and continue to work on, one is asking for ID, because asking for proof of funds, asking for, whether it's proof of funds or that they're, qualified to purchase a home, those can be awkward, because sometimes when agents if we get too stubborn or too strong with it, it can be pretty off-putting, and someone's about to spend $300,000 on a house, and all suddenly you've made them feel like they're a threat to your safety. We can work on that. And we can make that an easier pitch. Now, moreover than, what I would do personally, so that's kind of the correct answer, but I use an app that I use for screening. So I don't know if any of you guys use Forewarn. I use that app to verify if the person that is calling me, if their number is tied to a name, and does that name match the one that they're giving me. The thing with Forewarn is that it's a paid app, so I have to pay for that subscription. But I like it, and I use it every single day. It actually saves me a lot of time. It's not just safety, because, we get a barrage of phone calls, and sometimes you're like, do I call them back? Do I not? Is it a trash number? And more often than not, it's a trash number. So if it comes back and says this number is not associated with a person, then I know. I don't deal with it. And then lastly, what I do is I take that, I go look for, there hasn't been a client that I've worked with that I wasn't able to find some bit of information about them online. Yes, some clients don't have social media, or maybe they just have a LinkedIn account, or, usually I can find something. So I'm kind of all over the place there, but I like to just spread my web as cast it as far as I can to, see what I can find out.
And Mary Ann Wilson has put, it's Forewarn, Forewarn. So Forewarn app. Any other questions out there, or any other comments?
I have a question. When you ask somebody for their ID, do you ask them that when they first come in the office? Do you take a photocopy of it? And what do you do with that?
Okay, so this is what I do. So when I begin at the first time I'm talking to them, I always have them text me a copy of their driver's license. And so then becomes, because one of the things that I tell them is, that, for their safety, that, and my own, that, I have our office protocol asks for me to, obtain their driver's license, and then I let them know that I will be storing it, securely, and then sharing it with an office manager. So what I do personally is that when they text me the driver's license, I look at it to see does it look legit, does it look real. I've never had one that wasn't, so that's great. But when you go and you can save a picture in your phone as someone, like their contact, just typically it's a headshot. I take that driver's license photo and I save it in my phone as their contact photo. And then we have a process at my brokerage to where I can securely share that driver's license. And so whenever I tell the client that, look, I will never use your information to spam you, and I will make sure that your driver's license is kept secure, they absolutely, that I am not telling them a mistruth. I do think it's important, because it wouldn't be as helpful. Like, yes, it would be a deterrent to a potential criminal or someone, that for me to have the driver's license and to have it stored on my phone. But for me personally, it means more to my personal safety to also have not only someone else have it, but that the client knows that someone else has it. And so they know that you might still try to commit a crime, but you have to know you got a lot of skin in the game, and they're going to know exactly who did this crime to me. But that's a great question. Yeah.
Who else has a question?
Can I ask a follow-up on that one?
Sure can.
Yeah.
Have you ever had somebody refuse to give you their license?
Mm-hmm. I have felt the sting. So, growing up as a real estate kid and hearing my mom's stories, I always was like, I don't want anything to do with real estate. And so it's funny because now I do just a little bit of real estate on the side, right? And so it's good because I do just enough that I can be real when we're talking about safety. I've had the sting, and honestly, I've had the sting more often than I'd like to admit, of someone saying, well, and I'm using their words, not mine. I'm not giving you my ID. That's stupid. I can just call another real estate agent and they'll just show me the property right now. I don't have to do that. And so that's where we have to work on. Well, maybe that's the case, but the difference is that it's for my safety, for yours, and it is a part of my professionalism. So, but yeah, absolutely. I mean, it stings. And quite frankly, another thing that kind of stinks is that because some people know like my platform and trying to be safe, I've had consumers and other real estate agents sadly try to test me just to see if I would which people can be buttheads, but I've had, so I just knowing I have to do the right thing because I never know if it's only for my personal safety or if I'm being tested.
So I have a question that came in to me privately, but I'm going to kick this over to Lewis. So, Lewis, this is a question that came up that said, what about open houses when COVID ends? Any opinion on carrying a weapon or spray?
Well, yes. My singular most important piece of advice was, in either case, you better damn well know how to use it and practice safety, and have the proper training in any event of either of those two instruments of self-defense. And also make sure of what the laws are surrounding both of those pieces of defensive equipment. The most secure probably situation you can encounter is to have someone go with you in an open house so that there are more than one individual involved. That way, if you have more than one client or more than one buying unit come into that open house, you can spread out and also maintain observation and be with those folks. Secondly, in an open house, make sure that you advise your clients to either remove from the property or secure anything that might be appealing to someone who may have a nefarious intent, whether it be drugs, whether it be firearms, whether it be collectibles, whether it be jewelry, whatever it is. Secure that those materials, or remove them from the property prior to even having an open house. But with regard to that question that just came up about the defensive equipment, make sure that first of all, you know how and when and under what circumstances to use those devices, and be very well trained in the use of those, and practice safety in any event.
Mm-hmm.
Well said.
So Carl, I have a question for you because you're a Southern gentleman, right?
I'm definitely Southern.
Well, we're from the South, right? So one of the tips you had was don't go into a house or a room first, right? That's a hard thing. I'll be, from a realtor side, I get it. I get the safety, right? From a Southern side, there's a lot of Southern gentlemen who have a hard time, even as a realtor, when you say, go ahead, please go ahead, please go ahead. And that Southern gentleman manners want to come out and say, no, ladies first,
Yeah. So, this I can't take credit for, but I've spoken to it. I'd like to think that it was all born, in the South and all the great folks and their kindness. But what I have heard female agents do, because of course us guys, we can get away with it, after you, but I've heard ladies say that they will make comments about, hey, I have been in this home, I've seen this home, or, you're the one that matters here. You're the one that this could be your forever home, and I don't want to block your view. I want you to get in here and see this first. Whatever that spin can be, that you are most important. It's important to me for you to be able to see this room, this feature unobstructed. It is a good spin. I will say that I think that it takes a certain amount of forceful kindness. I think that you really have to assert that you truly insist.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, great point.
Yep.
I'll say, this is, we have to practice these things because, back to that good old Southern thing. I was showing property. It's been a bit ago. I don't know if I told you guys this whenever I was with you last, but I'm showing property to a couple, and I hear up, the husband asked to get up in the attic, and he, I hear him from the attic, and he goes, hot diggity, this attic is amazing. And well, before I even knew it, I had climbed that attic ladder, and I was like, I want to see this attic. It sounds cool. And then I get up there, and then it's you dummy. Why on what planet do you really need to know what this attic looked like? And you just can get so excited that you can just let down your guard. And trust me, it was just an attic. There was no need for me to run up there.
I think sometimes we all, forget a little bit because we get excited as well. But Lewis put a comment in the chat that said the buddy system is the best deterrent. And I totally agree. And, I train a lot for new agents, and I always tell them for an open house, bring a buddy. There are a ton of new agents getting into this business, and, they're dying to pick your brain, have some mentorship. So grab a new agent in your company and take them to an open house. They're going to learn from you, but it also provides that safety. And if you can't, I always tell agents, I carry my cell phone with me. I'm not actively selling, but I carry my cell phone with me. And when I was doing open houses, if I felt a little strange, even, my phone was always on mute. But if I felt a little strange, I would pretend to say, oh my gosh, this call's coming through. Let me step out for a minute. And I could text another agent that I knew was close to say, can you just pop over? And absolutely, I think almost anybody in any office, if you're uncomfortable, they're going to, step in and help you out. Amber, who is our president-elect, she'll be our president next year. She said, is there ever a point where you drop your guard with your clients?
It's tough, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's tough. I think that there are points. I think, dropping your guard probably comes in layers. And so I think that, kind of that master hard shell is just verifying the identity of that person. And so then once you kind of peel back some of the layers of identity, then becomes the hard part of intent. And so, I've sat with true experts at this, and I am not an expert on criminal intent and criminal activity, but it's been, I've heard multiple times that especially with sexual assault and rape, that these men that do this, it often happens 3 and 4 times before they even get caught. And so we have to, until we get to a comfortability with true intention, I think that we have to keep our guards up. I know that's not a great answer for you, but
I was going to say after the closing.
Hey, Heather and Carl, I just wanted to add real quick. We've talked a lot about dealing with people who are buying properties, but I think sometimes as a new agent, you end up with rental opportunities. And the 2 times that I've been at risk were both in rental situations. And one of them was, it was the nephew of a famous basketball player in this area. So I felt very comfortable with the name, and I knew that he was on the phone with him and all this sort of thing, and showed several properties. And one of the last ones we saw together, he started talking about concealed carry, and he pulls up his pant leg and he has a handgun there attached to his ankle. And I've been showing all these properties to him by myself, and mostly empty homes because they were rentals. And then I had another situation where 2 men said they were looking for a townhome for their sister. And so and it's like, you don't bring them into the office. You're not in that habit. They don't need to see a lender, so you kind of bypass, and you're not getting paid very much. So you're like, I'll just meet them at the couple properties. I've identified a few they're interested in. And I got there, and this time there were 2 very athletic build, one of them may have been 6'4" or 6'5". The other one was over 6 feet, 2 brothers looking for a property for their sister. And I did take all the precautions of having them go look and that sort of thing. And I tried to reach out to one of my friends. I couldn't get a picture of the, I think it was a Cadillac Escalade they were driving. I couldn't get a picture of the tag on the back because they were always trying to put me, oh, we'll just follow you to the next property. So it really was, I was so thankful to get out of that safe. And they were genuinely kind, but I was putting myself at risk. And so please be careful with rentals. And maybe we can, if you can tell us a way that would still keep the client, by having them maybe come into the office or text the ID. I like that idea because them texting it doesn't feel as intrusive as us having to take it from their hands and go to a copier and then walk back with it. So I like that idea.
Excellent point, Julie.
Mm-hmm.
And Heather, whenever I send the slide deck, we just developed a new resource for property management, kind of the differences with safety protocols. So I'll make sure I send that to Julie. Thank you very much for raising that.
Perfect. We will get out of it. I want to be mindful of everybody's time, but I do want to ask you, and I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, but would you share, because this was one of the most comical portions of your time with us in 2018, who found your mother's name tag?
Okay, so I am by nature a goofball, right? And so, and I find that I can't really be as humorous because it won't land as right, whenever you're over Zoom. But so here's the thing, you all know that these bad people, they took my mom to their home and they locked her up in their bathroom. And so my mom was there for a while. Well, year or so after these bad people had been put, they're in prison and have been for a while, I get this call, and this person has tracked me down through a friend of a friend. And so the story goes that, he's like, Mr. Carter, we hesitated to contact you to let you know this, but we thought you might want it. And so I love you for asking me to tell this story. So these people were the new tenants where the bad people lived. So they moved into this home and later found out that, that my mom had been held there. And so, he goes on to explain that they had the house professionally cleaned and that they are very clean people. And I'm like, okay, get to the point. Like, what did you find? And so come to find out, these people, you're going to think bad of Arkansas. I always say I have all my teeth. Like the stories aren't all true. But these people have a pet raccoon that they let wander their house like a dog or a cat. Like literally just like, if you imagine just your little, come here Fluffy, and it's a raccoon. And so, this raccoon was able to get into like underneath, and I've never actually seen it, but it was described like a cabinet by the dishwasher. So the raccoon kind of gets up underneath this this cabinet, and of course raccoons like shiny things, and so the raccoon finds my mom's realtor name badge that she had been wearing that day, and it had been broken and discarded underneath this cabinet. And of course I'm thankful to have that now, but that story does not do much for Arkansas's reputation that this pet raccoon got under there and found it.
Might be
Lord.
a problem in North Carolina, you know, but I think when you said that, everybody started laughing because we're like, oh, every stereotype for Arkansas, we're like, they got raccoons.
Raccoons just wandering around their houses. Disgusting.
So he actually had it was in his pocket. So we're so glad that, you know, you have that. But again, I cannot thank you enough, Carl. We are just so blessed to have this relationship with you. I do want to let everyone know that it's so important for realtor safety that Women's Council and the association, you know, made a huge donation to Beverly Carter. Again, this is being videotaped, so it will be on the library. And, you know, I encourage you, if you have any questions, you have any suggestions, please reach out. Lewis is, you know, obviously our president this year. Reach out to RRAR, reach out to us, and we will share the information that Carl's sending to us. And, you know, we're here to help you and your business. So any questions you have, we will, you know, definitely research it, look into it, and offer additional training opportunities in the future. So I don't think we have any more questions. Again, thank you. Several people keep saying the same thing. You know, we so appreciate you sharing your mom's story, you know, your courage to get through it. I know it's not easy, you know, but I know she's very proud of you. And, you know, again, you know, you're in our thoughts and prayers constantly when we hear stories. So thank you so much. Appreciate everybody being on this call. Just to wrap up, just a reminder, Leadership Academy applications are open. I think Derek said through November 6th, 5th, right? And
the 6th, yes.
Yes. There is tons of information on RRAR about the Leadership Academy. So please reach out if you have any questions. And then also Heather Thompson and our foundation, Realtor Foundation of Wake County. Your 2 charges were to like that page, RFOWC, Realtor Foundation of Wake County, and the Realtor Roulette page. So again, like our Women's Council Facebook page, we have a lot of good events coming up, and you know, we'll be marketing those and posting those as they come forward. But Lewis, do you want to add anything as we wrap up?
Yeah, Heather, if I may. You know, we're soon coming up on the time of year when it is now rapidly becoming earlier darkness, and the time will be changing before you know it. And I highly recommend to everyone to ask your brokers in charge to contact your local police department and have someone who is willing to come out and discuss safety with you and how to proceed with safety and what you are allowed and what are not allowed to do. These folks can also, in some cases, provide you with some very basic self-defense procedures that can help extricate you from a very difficult situation safely. Most of the time, the police departments are very willing and very capable and able to do these things, and they count it as part of a community service. So please talk with your brokers in charge. Even, you know, with your smaller brokerages, perhaps we can have something that through our small brokerage council we can do, but your larger firms where they can have a group of individuals from the same firm of some quantity, 30 people maybe, they're more than happy and willing to do this. And it's a very invaluable experience to learn from the professionals how to keep yourself safe when you're in that situation. And be aware of your environment. So thank you again, Carl, for coming back. It's great to see you again. What a inspiring message. And, you know, this is my 3rd or 4th time hearing you speak on this. And our heart goes out to you and your family, and we truly appreciate your continuing to carry that torch. And thank you.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thank you so much, everybody.